Crown Court, P743/224, Part 1, Take 1.
Edited.
In September last year, James Mallard appeared before Fulchester Magistrates Court on a charge of taking and driving away a motor vehicle without the consent of the owner or other lawful authority. The car in question belonged to Mallard's doctor, Dr. Qureshi. When he appeared before the magistrates, he pleaded guilty. The case was remanded for 14 days. When he appeared on the remanded date, he changed his mind. He pleaded not guilty, elected to go for trial, and reserved his defence. The case is now being heard before the Crown Court. The prosecution have alleged that Mallard, having quarrelled with his doctor, in a fit of temper, drove the doctor's car away.
I take this oath on the Crown, believing in the Crown as God's true word, believing in the true God above us, that whatsoever I tell this court will be the truth.
What is your full name?
Sajjad Qureshi.
And your occupation?
I am a registered medical practitioner.
Yes. And are you the owner of a Renault motor car, license number VND 445L?
I am.
What did you do with your motor car when you commenced evening surgery on the 13th of September?
I parked it near my surgery in Bruton Place. It wasn't exactly outside, as there were vans there, but I parked 60 yards away from the door, opposite to the dentist. I'm sorry to say I left the ignition keys in the car.
At what time was this?
Just before 5:30 p.m.
Yes. And when did you leave the surgery?
At about 7:30, I received an urgent call. The midwife was ringing me and saying there is a postpartum hemorrhage. Very urgent. I ran to my car, but it wasn't there.
And what did you do then?
Oh, I telephoned the police.
And what happened subsequently?
Within minutes, Detective Sergeant Atras arrived. I told him my predicament I was in, and he ran me in his own car to the patient, who was very quickly admitted to hospital.
Yes, your immediate concern was with the patient.
Oh, yes, most urgent in postpartum hemorrhaging.
Now, do you know the accused, James Mallard?
Most definitely. He was on my list.
A patient?
Yes, my lord.
And did you see him on the evening of the 13th of September?
Yes, about 30 minutes before I went to look for my car, Mallard was in my surgery. He was extremely abusive to me, full of spite and malice.
Full of spite and malice. Why should he be spiteful to you?
He imagines he has a grievance against me, which really is quite ridiculous.
Perhaps you would elaborate.
Well, it's difficult to know where to begin. There is imagined grievance on several accounts. First, his family were all patients of mine, and his grandmother, recently deceased, was in severe pain for many months with terminal cancer. While I took what steps I could to alleviate her pain, it wasn't appreciated.
Did he say you should have done more for her?
He did, and for his widowed mother the same. The poor woman is a deaf mute, but I can do nothing.
Yes. So was that the reason for his being abusive to you in your surgery on the 13th of September?
Oh, that was himself. He's constantly demanding medical certificates. He has a bad condition, which I said was imagined, or at any rate, I failed to diagnose anything wrong. I have caused tests to be made, and the orthopedic specialist at the hospital can find nothing. I told him it would be better if his whole family sought another doctor.
You did not want him on your list?
Not at all, nor his family.
Yes. And you told him this in your surgery on the evening of the 13th of September?
Yes, I said I was writing to the Executive Council asking the names of the whole family should be removed from my list.
And what did he say?
He gave me a mouthful of cheek and foul language and went out slamming the door.
Now, can you tell us exactly what he said before he slammed the door?
He said he owed me a few favors, and I wasn't to think I could come to this country and treat people like dirt.
Could you repeat that? He said he owed you something?
Yes, he said he owed me a few favors.
And what did you understand by that?
that he owed me some harm.
Yes. And one final question. What was the accused wearing when he was in your surgery on that evening?
A sports jacket and underneath dungarees.
You're quite sure that he wore dungarees?
Blue dungarees, yes.
Yes. I'm obliged. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Gresham, you said in your evidence in chief that you telephoned the police when you found out that your car was missing. But that isn't quite everything, is it? Is it not true, in fact, that you phoned Western Road Police Station and asked specifically for Detective Sergeant Atras?
Yes, I asked for Sergeant Atras.
Yes, you didn't just pick up the phone and say, my car's been stolen, can you help me? You asked specifically for Sergeant Atras.
Yes.
Now, why was that?
Sergeant Atras knew Millard very well, as he had been involved with him before. He's a thoroughly bad lot.
Most unfortunate that you should have made that last statement. It cannot but prejudice the accused. I shall have no alternative but to discharge the jury and start a new trial.
My Lord, it is my intention to admit the accused's previous convictions. The defendant wouldn't be where he is today if he had not previously been known both to Dr. Creshi and to the police as a person with previous convictions. The fact that Dr. Creshi thinks it a thoroughly bad lot is, in fact, very pertinent.
I see. Very well, Mr. Parsons, if that is the way you intend to conduct the case, I'm sure you will do what is ever best for your client. I don't think I need start a new trial.
I'm obliged, my lord. So, Doctor, you asked specifically for Sergeant Atras, who is a friend of yours. Now, am I right in thinking that the first name mentioned when he came to your house was that of the accused?
Yes.
And what did you say?
I said he was very rude to me prior to my car being stolen.
In fact, you suspected him of stealing it.
Yes.
And once in the car with Sergeant Atras, did you continue to speak about the accused?
Yes, and his family. I said I was removing them from my list.
Yes. And do you remember what Sergeant Atras was wearing when he came to see you?
No.
Not at all? Was he in uniform?
No.
Well, can you describe his clothes?
Not accurately. I see so many people in a day.
Well, perhaps I can help you. Was Sergeant Atras wearing a sports jacket?
I think a suit. I'm not sure.
How long were you with him altogether then?
About an hour.
So you were in his company for an hour, you sat beside him in the car, he accompanied you back to your house, and you can't remember what he wore?
I think it was a suit. I'm not sure.
But you recall the colour of the suit?
I'm not sure.
But you were quite sure what James Mallard wore?
Blue dungarees.
Yes. What colour of tie was Mr. Mallard wearing that evening?
I'm not sure.
Well, can you describe his jacket?
It was an ordinary jacket, part of his suit, I think.
I see. Did you examine him?
No,
Why did he come to see you then?
to get a medical certificate.
And you did not examine him?
I had examined him many times.
But you did not examine him on that occasion,
No,
even though he complained of pain?
I did not believe him.
Now, in the car, on the way to Hersham Crescent, did you state your opinion of the accused to Sergeant Atras?
I probably did.
Yes, well, did you or did you not, Doctor?
I did.
Yes. Did you tell Sergeant Atras he was a nuisance to you?
Yes.
Did you say that the district would be far better off if he didn't live in it?
Yes, this could be a very dangerous line of questioning, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, I am aware of that, my lord. I think the reason will become apparent in due course. Or perhaps I may phrase that question another way. Dr. Creshi, did you say to James Mallard that the district would be better off if he didn't live in it?
I may have said something like that, yes.
Yes, and you say that Sergeant Atras was in no doubt that you thought James Mallard a thoroughly bad lot.
No.
Now, in reply to my learned friend, you said that James Mallard wore a sports jacket over his blue dungarees.
Yes.
But in reply to me, you said it was an ordinary jacket, part of a suit, you thought. Now, which is it, Dr. Creshi?
I'm not sure.
Well, you were very definite in reply to my learned friend. A sports jacket over blue dungarees, you said.
I'm only sure about blue dungarees.
I see. I don't want to make too much of it, but are we to take it that you're uncertain of whether he was wearing a sports jacket or not?
Yes.
When did you first mention the blue dungarees?
On the way to Hersham Crescent, Sergeant Atras asked what Millard was wearing, and I told him.
I see. Yes. I'm obliged to.
Dr. Creasy, would you state once more the way in which Mallard left your surgery?
He slammed the door in a furious temper.
And would you tell us again what he said as he left?
He said, "I owe you a few favors."
And what did you understand by that?
That he meant to do me harm.
Yes, and what trousers was he wearing?
Blue dungarees.
Blue dungarees. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Creasy. I call Gwilym Duress Lewis.
Gwilym Duress Lewis, please.
Your full name is Gwilym Duress Lewis, and you are a registered dental practitioner with a surgery in Bruton Place.
Yes, yes.
Now, were you in your surgery on the evening of Wednesday, the 13th of September?
Yes, yes, I was. And I remember, first of all, that Dr. Creasy couldn't park his car outside his surgery because there were commercial vehicles parked there. Then I saw him park outside my surgery. That is on the other side of the road. Now,
Well,
we've been having...
Where is your surgery?
It's up on the second floor, man. But I was looking down on the road.
Now, what did you see subsequently?
Well, I've been keeping an eye out for these van drivers, but you can never catch them. Anyway, later in the evening, I saw someone hanging about the parked cars.
And at what time was this?
Oh, about 7:15 p.m. You see, I hold a late surgery on a Wednesday, but I saw this man of about, medium height on the other side of the road. He walked up and down several times. Now, I cannot describe his face because it was turned from me, but he was wearing blue dungarees.
Now, you say you cannot describe the face of the man you just seen by the car.
No, I did not see it.
But you have no doubt that he was wearing blue dungarees.
Well, I suppose so, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Sergeant Atras, after your conversation with Dr. Creasy, you went to the home of the accused, but he was not in.
Yes, sir.
Perhaps you would tell us what happened then.
His grandfather told me he wasn't there, sir.
His grandfather, that's Mr. John Ryan.
That's right, sir.
Did you notice something else at that time?
Yes, sir, I did. I thought I could smell something burning, like material or clothing, inside the house, sir.
And were you able to ascertain what was burning?
No, I was unable to get admission into the house, sir.
And what did you do next?
I'd already reported the theft of the car, sir, so I went off duty. I was off duty at about 10:30 p.m. when I saw the accused standing outside the Capitol Cinema in Princess Way. I approached him, I told him Dr. Qureshi's car was missing, and that I wanted to ask him some questions about his whereabouts that evening.
And what did he say?
He swore at me, sir.
Had you revealed the fact that you were a police officer?
No, my lord, but the accused knew me well enough.
Describe what happened next, Sergeant.
I told him that I knew that he and Dr. Qureshi had had an argument that evening before the car disappeared, and asked him to accompany voluntarily to Western Road Police Station.
And what was his reaction?
He swore at me again, sir. I told him that his manner was offensive and cautioned him not to make any more obscene remarks.
And did he reply?
Yes, sir. He said he was not going to be booked on sus, not going to have his collar felt every time I had a moody.
And what did you understand by that?
Well, he was alleging that I was trying to intimidate him, sir.
And what transpired?
At that moment, a uniformed constable, Constable Wilson, came on the scene, sir, and again I asked the accused to accompany me to the station. On the third occasion, he did.
And did he cooperate with you inside the police station?
Not at first, sir. I asked him as to his whereabouts that evening and if he would make a statement. At first he refused, so I asked him to think it over. He did, and then in the presence of Constable Bell and myself, he signed a statement, sir, after a formal caution.
Do you now produce the statement?
I do, sir.
Exhibit 1, my lord. Would you read it, please, Sergeant?
Certainly, sir. I, James Mallard, wish to make a statement. I've been told that I need not say anything unless I wish to do so, and whatever I say may be given in evidence. I did Qureshi's Reynolds. He's always leaving the keys in, and I owe him a few favours. I took it from outside his surgery in Bruton Place and ran it over to Pengham Moors. There wasn't much juice in it, so I left it there. It was just a spin to cool off. I wasn't going to nick it, just make that black bastard know that he couldn't push me around and get away with it. I've read the above statement and have been told that I can correct, alter or add anything I wish. The statement is true and I've made it of my own free will. James Mallard. I then cautioned and charged him with the offence, sir, and with driving without a valid licence, being uninsured and being disqualified.
Yes, and what did he say?
He said, "I knew he was going to throw the book at me. What will I get?"
Finally, I understand that, in fact, the car was subsequently discovered undamaged.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Sergeant.
Sergeant Actress, you're an experienced police officer and well known in Fulchester.
Oh, I wouldn't say well known, sir.
Well known to the accused.
No, I've met him on occasions before, sir.
Well, on what occasions have you met him previously? You can be quite frank, Sergeant. Is it not true that you arrested the accused previously when he was convicted of housebreaking and larceny and was sent for Borstal training?
Yes, sir.
And is it not also true that not long ago he was released from Borstal training and is likely to be sent back there or indeed sent to prison in the event of another conviction such as the one on which he now stands charged?
I expect so, sir.
Yes. And when you arrested him previously, whose house had he broken into?
Dr. Qureshi's, sir.
Yes. And in fact, the accused has a record which includes housebreaking, larceny, and taking away and driving a vehicle without the owner's consent.
Yes, sir.
And you knew all this when you first went to Dr. Creshy's house.
Yes, sir.
Am I right in thinking that the first name mentioned by Dr. Creshy as a likely suspect was that of the accused?
Yes, sir.
In fact, Dr. Creshy had made up his mind that it was the accused who had stolen his car, and he told you so.
No, sir. Dr. Qureshi told me that the accused had left the surgery in a bad temper and owed him a grudge.
But at that time, you had no concrete evidence that it was Mr. Mallard.
No, but I felt I should proceed with my inquiries, sir.
Yes, well, they weren't very successful, were they?
Sir?
Huh? Well, I mean, presumably an expert examined this car, but there hasn't been so much as a fingerprint produced to prove that Mallard was in the car.
Well, the steering wheel and the door panel were examined, sir, by experts, but it was found to be wiped, sir.
How do you know they were wiped?
I should have said they were examined and found to have no trace of fingerprints at all, sir.
That is better, Sergeant. That is better. And how many occasions did you discuss with Dr. Creshy the disappearance of his car?
That evening, sir, and the following morning.
Mm-hmm. Who mentioned the dungarees first?
Dr. Creshy, sir. I asked him if he could remember what the accused was wearing at the time, and he said blue dungarees.
Yes, sir. When the dungarees were mentioned, Dr. Creshy didn't volunteer the information, but gave it in response to a question from you.
Well, now you mention it, sir, I think he volunteered it.
Now, Sergeant, did Dr. Creshy mention the dungarees when he first phoned up to say his car was missing?
No, sir.
But when did he mention them?
I'm not exactly sure, sir.
Well, let me take you back to the first interview with Dr. Creshy.
It wasn't an interview, sir. He just wanted a car, quick.
Yes. But on the way to Hersham Crescent, did you discuss Mallard?
Oh, I don't think so, sir. Not really. We were just concerned with getting to the patient.
Yes, but during the emergency drive, something must have been mentioned about Mallard.
Yes, Dr. Qureshi told me that he left the surgery in a temper and that he owed him a few favours.
Yes, now, did the dungarees come up on the outward journey?
No, sir.
Well, were they mentioned on the return journey?
No, sir.
At what point did you first interview Mr. Lewis, the dentist?
The following morning, sir.
Quite sure it was the following morning.
It was the following morning, yes, sir.
Didn't see him that night.
Yes, sir. He was standing in the street when we got back from Hersham Crescent.
Yes, sir, you did see him on the night of the 13th.
Yes, sir.
But you just told us you didn't interview him until the following morning.
Well, I didn't interview him, sir. When we parked the car, he just poked his head through the window.
And what did he say?
Well, he mentioned this man loitering, sir.
And did he say what he wore, this loiterer?
Yes, sir. Blue dungarees.
And Dr. Creshy was sitting beside you at this moment.
Yes, sir.
So Dr. Creshy mentioned nothing about the blue dungarees until he first heard them mentioned by Mr. Lewis.
I'm not sure, sir. He probably did.
And when did he first mention them? You just told us he didn't bring them up either going to or coming back from this distressed patient.
Well, I'm not exactly sure, sir.
I suggest you are, Sergeant, and from your evidence it is plain that the doctor has said nothing about the blue dungarees until he first heard Mr. Lewis mention this loiterer and say he wore such clothes. I mean, perhaps it wasn't until the following morning that Dr. Creshy first mentioned the dungarees, or even later still.
It could have been the following day, sir.
Yes, by which time the defendant was in custody.
Yes, sir.
Well, one thing is certain, Sergeant, isn't it? The accused was not wearing dungarees when you first saw him.
No, sir.
And you found no dungarees in his house.
No, sir. I was not allowed into the house.
Ah, yes. Yes, I'd like to ask you some questions about the visit you paid to the accused's house earlier that evening. Why did you first go there in the first place?
To interview the accused, sir.
Yes, and when you found out he wasn't there, what did you do?
I asked his grandfather where he was.
Yes, that was Mr. Ryan.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ryan told you where he was, didn't he?
No, sir. He became abusive, sir. He tried to slam the door on my foot, and I restrained him.
And what did he say?
He accused me of never letting the boy alone, sir.
Not of never letting James Mallard alone?
Yes, sir.
And what did you say to that?
I said that I'd received a complaint and had some inquiries to make. He grew more abusive, and he attempted to strike me. In fact, he spat in my face.
Yes, and I believe subsequently Mr. Ryan was accused of assault at Fulton Magistrates' Court.
Yes, sir.
With what result?
The magistrates dismissed the charge, sir.
Yes, so you were unsuccessful in that attempt.
Oh, my lord.
Yes, Mr. Parsons, you know perfectly well that police officers do not regard prosecutions as personal battles to be won or lost.
Yes, I am aware of that, my lord, as a general rule, but I'd like to make it quite clear that I consider this to be a case of personal vendetta.
Oh, I see. Oh, I hadn't realized you were putting it as strongly as that. Well, I mustn't interfere, must I? Well, let's get on.
Thank you, my lord. Now, let us deal with your conversation with the accused grandfather. You didn't ask to look over the house, did you? You just put your foot over the threshold.
I did ask, sir.
You said to him, Jimmy's got itchy fingers again, and a little bird told you it was cars this time.
No, sir. I told him about Dr. Gresh's car.
Mr. Ryan told you the defendant had gone to the pictures.
No, sir.
You said that Creshy wasn't just any old wog, but was a mate of yours, and that if he didn't get the car back that night, you'd breathe very heavy on Jimmy.
I did not, sir.
And you said to Mr. Ryan, you're as much to blame for that boy going wrong as anybody.
No, sir.
You said I booked him 4 times as a juvenile, and he'll never do any good living here with you.
No, sir.
Did you not say to Mr. Ryan, you've all of you let his poor bloody mother dance, but as you should be behind bars yourself?
No, sir.
I kept you in the stand all day. The answer would still be the same, wouldn't it?
Well, if it wasn't, I wouldn't be telling you the truth, would I, sir?
You've had your answer, Mr. Parsons.
And at the end of this exchange, you tried to gain entry into the house. And Mr. Ryan shut the door on your foot. There was a scuffle, and that gave rise to the charge of assault.
No, sir. He became abusive, he spat in my face, and I restrained him.
After you'd interviewed his grandfather, what did you do?
I went off duty, sir.
But you were looking for Mallard even though you were off duty?
No, sir.
Well, where did you go?
I went for a stroll, sir.
You went for a stroll?
Yes, sir.
Without a thought of Mallard?
Well, not exactly, sir, but you see, when these young boys cut loose, it's good that they get picked up quickly. It's to their benefit, in case they get into more serious trouble.
Oh, so now you've adopted the role of welfare officer.
Sergeant Atras, you considered that a person at large who might have committed a minor offence was best apprehended in case he should commit a more serious offence.
Exactly so.
And I quite agree with you.
I'm obliged to your lordship.
Good.
But, Sergeant, at 10:25, you had no evidence that Mallard had committed even a minor offence.
I had my suspicions, sir.
Where did you first see him?
Outside the Capitol Cinema, sir.
Yes, you were keeping watch for him.
No, sir.
But you were at the cinema because that was where Mr. Ryan told you his grandson had gone.
No, sir.
Did you see his girlfriend?
No, sir. He was alone.
You mean he was alone when you saw him?
I mean, he was alone when I saw him, sir.
Yes, thank you. Now, what did he do when he saw you?
Nothing, sir.
Did not attempt to run?
No, sir.
He did not attempt to evade you in any way?
No, sir.
But if the prosecution is right, he had committed a crime and therefore should be in fear of the police.
Yes, sir.
But he did not run.
No, sir.
No. Now, how would you describe his manner before you spoke to him?
Well, he just stood there, silent, sir.
The case of the Queen against Mallard will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.